Hi, my name is Pip. I'm an author and this is a video about Ingram and KDP and whether you can publish on both. If you thought that you would upload your manuscript to Ingram and to KDP Amazon to get the best of both worlds and to maximize your distribution, well, congratulations, because you've just fallen down a publishing rabbit hole nightmare. Enjoy. I think maybe back in the day, this worked a little bit better when you had Ingram and CreateSpace, but these are complicated times we live in. So why did I want to publish through Amazon as well as Ingram? I obviously wanted the expanded distribution of Ingram, but I also wanted to publish on Amazon because I wanted to cut out the middleman. When you put your book up on Ingram, they spread it everywhere. But what Amazon does is they also add their own markup to your book so that they make even more money off every sale of your book. And I wanted to publish directly on Amazon to cut out the middleman so there weren't two people taking a chunk of the money that's generated through the sales of the book, but also to price control a little bit more if possible. Royalties are also theoretically a little bit better on an ebook published through Kindle as opposed to published on Kindle through Ingram. But I mean, really for me, it was trying to price control it so that you're not losing buyers because Amazon have decided to add an extra $5 to the cost of your book. One of the other reasons why I wanted to publish directly on Amazon as well as Ingram is because it's just a little bit easier for an author to use Amazon KDP. So when you are asking people to review your book, you want to send them a copy. Sending physical copies from Australia is extremely expensive in postage and it takes forever. One of the other reasons why I wanted to try using Amazon KDP was to make it easier to give people copies of the book for review. So sending physical copies from Australia in terms of postage is incredibly expensive and also very slow. And obviously every time you send a physical copy, there is a much more of a cost to the author. When you publish through KDP, it is quite easy to send an ebook copy of your book to someone for a review. The trouble is that it is not so easy to do so through Ingram. They provide no support on this front. I asked them, how do I do it? And they just said it can't be done. Also, when you're publishing through Amazon, it is much easier to print ARC copies and author copies, and you can actually get ARC copies that have a strip that says advanced reader copy, not for redistribution on it, where you can't get that on Ingram. In terms of comparing Amazon's uploading process to Ingram's tax forms were a nightmare, and it was so difficult to do that I've actually put off the process of trying Amazon for ages because I swear I had PTSD. But when you log into KDP, it's actually super easy to do your tax forms, and there's no printing and scanning, and it's just so much easier. Physically uploading the manuscript is much the same. In terms of uploading the cover art, you do need a different file format for KDP Amazon versus Ingram. In terms of getting author copies, they look cheaper on Amazon, but that's because the price displayed is in US dollars, whereas Ingram, for me, converts it into Australian dollars. So it looked like Amazon was like half the cost, but it was actually the same cost. In terms of the print quality, I had one slightly damaged one from Ingram, and they were all fine from Amazon. But from Amazon, the cost of postage was significantly higher, and the whole process of getting the book was significantly slower. Now, there is a reason for this. It turns out that there is a printer for Ingram in Australia, so the books aren't having to travel as far, whereas my Amazon shipped books came from Kentucky. In terms of the actual physical copy of the books and the difference between Amazon KDP and Ingram, often people choose Ingram because they want to have the option of a hardcover, but all I've done so far is paperbacks. So you can see the difference in the book. So this one is Ingram and this one is Amazon. And this one is much bluer in its green and this one is a little bit duller. Initially I thought that it didn't really worry me that much, but when you actually spend a little bit of time looking at it, this one really doesn't pop the same way this one does. There is a fine line just along here, which I assume is the fold point for the book, and I assume you have to have that because it is definitely a little bit thicker. This is the Amazon Amazon one, this is the Ingram one. So the formatting inside looks the same and the page numbers are the same, but the page quality is a little bit thicker on the Amazon one, and so the book is actually physically a different size. And I don't know if the book was equally thick on Ingram, whether it would have a fold line on the cover, but a fold line on the cover is not really a big difference for me. While we're on paper quality, as I said, the Amazon one, the pages feel a little bit thicker and they also feel a little bit rougher. The Ingram ones feel a little bit thinner, a little smoother. The cover page, so the Ingram one feels nice and slick and like a reasonably thick piece of paper when you actually flip open the cover. When you're touching this one, it feels pretty similar. It doesn't have the same glossy finish, but it feels a lot thinner and it doesn't feel as good a quality in terms of the paper that creates the cover. It's kind of, the Amazon one is kind of a little bit like the feel of when you get a professional color photocopy or a professional photo printout. It's a little bit more like that type of paper. So there is a difference in terms of both the aesthetic appearance, the physical size, and the paper used. If we move now to the spine of the book, so I would say that the detailing on the spine is much more precise on the Ingram one versus the Amazon KDP one. So you lose a little bit of the crispness of the detail in the spine. The other thing that I noticed about the spine is, obviously, as I've said, you have to upload a different file type for the cover art for Amazon versus Ingram. And I have noticed that even though it is formatted to the pages, with Ingram, there's like a 1 mil overlap of the spine, so it doesn't crisply stay to the spine, it kind of curves around to the front cover, whereas that hasn't happened. This is just a straight crisp spine and there's no spine making its way around onto the front cover. So that was definitely a pro for the Amazon print, and I actually like that it feels a little bit thicker. It is about as meaty as I was expecting the book to feel, and I remember being a little bit surprised that 270 odd pages felt as slim as it does from the from the Ingram version. But I mean, overall, I definitely think I prefer the Ingram version to the Amazon version when all things are considered. When I started going through the process of trying to find information about could I publish on Amazon and Ingram, I really couldn't find much that was conclusive. I found a little bit about people having tried to do it and having separate listings and having trouble receiving their royalties, and there being confusion about who was actually supplying the book when someone then ordered through Amazon. I had actually spoken to someone at Ingram who had said essentially that if I wanted to also publish through Amazon, just to let them know when I had done it so that they could switch off the Amazon distribution. So imagine my surprise when I emailed them to tell them to switch off the Amazon distribution, when they were like, whoa, you can't do that. You need a whole separate ISBN. Whoa, you can't do it. So then there were like 1,000 emails back and forth between me and Ingram, me and Amazon, trying to work out if I do need a new ISBN to have a listing on Amazon. And Amazon literally said one thing and Ingram literally said the other. So then I got even more confused, and thankfully actually someone from Ingram called me and went, look, this is going to be easier to have this conversation over the phone because I think everything's getting confused via email. Which it then got even more confusing, because at one point she said, well, then don't bother publishing through us then, because we were talking about the expanded distribution, and she was essentially saying, well, if you're not worried about having it on like Booktopia or something, then don't even bother publishing through us because it's more expensive and you've got to pay the uploading fee. And I was a little bit surprised that someone from Ingram actually said, don't bother publishing through us then. And I was like, whoa, okay. So at this point, I'm super confused. And essentially what it comes down to is Ingram has global distribution and Amazon has expanded distribution. By uploading to Amazon, I ended up with a second listing for the same book, which, like for example, if someone then orders through one of them, which one do they review on? It splits up your reviews, and it certainly makes things more complicated in terms of who's distributing, who's paying royalties, and who reports back about book sales, and all of those sorts of things. So I've now taken down that Amazon listing and just left it with Ingram. It sounded like they have basically the same printer, because Amazon is receiving the metadata for your book from Ingram anyway. So it seems like the big difference really comes down to, if you publish through Ingram, like I said, it's a global distribution. So they make your book appear available in places like Booktopia, the Book Depository, things like that. And they will automatically, if you do the ebook option as well, upload it to Apple Books and things like that, as well as Amazon and Kindle. If you publish directly through Amazon, Ingram still receives your ISBN. So they still have your details somehow. And what happens is your book is then available on Amazon and KDP, but you won't see it on Apple Books, and it won't be available on Booktopia or the Book Depository. Technically, you could still order that book through the Book Depository or Booktopia, but it won't actually appear as available, but you could still get it. So it seems like it really comes down to how much do you want to avoid paying the Ingram uploading fees and the change fees if you want to amend your manuscript, and how much do you care whether your book appears as available on Booktopia and the Book Depository. You can still upload your book manually to Apple Books. It's just one more thing you have to do yourself. The other thing I considered was that I considered this after the event, was that I heard that Amazon is a little bit like Facebook in that they sell all your data, your personal data, for obviously their own financial gain for whatever reason. And yeah, so they now have all my tax details, which is not wonderful, but they might have got that anyway from Ingram because there seems to be a lot of overlap. But that's potentially something to consider. When you publish through Amazon KDP, your ebook is only available on Kindle. So any other avenues that you want to release that ebook on, you would need to sort that out yourself, whereas Ingram does that for you. But they do charge you for that. So they charge you $25 to upload your physical paperback or hardcover book, and they also charge you $25 for your ebook. And then every time you make any amendments to the cover art or to the manuscript itself, it's another $25 for each change. But when you publish through Amazon KDP, it's really easy then to send a MOBI file type, which is a file type you need to use in order to send a free copy of your ebook to someone. But Amazon were extremely clear in their email that you are not allowed to send a free copy of your book in exchange for a review, although I don't really know why else you would send free copies of your book. But they were pretty clear that you're not allowed to do that. And they also said, though, that when someone reviews your book, they don't have to say that they received the copy for free. But I am yet to hear back from Amazon about if I have uploaded through Ingram, if I can still send the MOBI file type directly to someone so that they can receive an ebook, because Ingram have flat out said no. So I'm still waiting for my email back about that from Amazon. So I just wanted to quickly update you all. I heard back from Amazon, and you don't have to actually have uploaded your book directly through Kindle in order to be able to send it on. All you need is a MOBI file type. I hope you found this video interesting about the comparison between publishing with Amazon KDP and Ingram. Definitely let me know in the comments below who you went with and why, or who you're thinking of going with and why. And don't forget to check me out on social media. I'm on Instagram and Twitter @PipCoombs.